Hey guys, tonight we're going to take a long, slow journey into a world of pain. But not the grand, heroic pain of the battlefield. We're going to explore the intimate, grinding, and terrifyingly mundane pain of a simple toothache in a time before dentistry, before anesthetics, and before the simple comfort of an aspirin. We're about to enter a world where that dull throb you feel in your molar isn't just an inconvenience. It is a potential death sentence. And trust me, with our modern expectation of things like root canals and Novocaine, you would not last 5 minutes. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd also love to know where you're tuning in from tonight, and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see this community assembling from every corner of the globe. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The day has been like any other, a long stretch of labor in the fields under a pale, watery sun. Now, in the smoky twilight of your hut, you are eating your evening meal. It is the same meal you eat almost every day, a thick, grayish pottage of boiled grains and cabbage and a heavy, dense slice of dark rye bread. You are chewing on a particularly hard crust when it happens. It is not a loud crack or a moment of searing agony. It is a small, sharp, unfamiliar twinge in one of your back molars. A tiny electric spark of a pain, so quick you almost think you imagined it. You stop chewing, your jaw frozen. You probe the tooth with your tongue. It feels no different from any other. You cautiously take another bite, and this time you chew on the other side of your mouth. The feeling doesn't return. You dismiss it as nothing, a trick of the hard crust, and finish your meal. But later, as you sit by the flickering light of the central hearth, the feeling returns. It is no longer a sharp spark, but a low, dull, persistent hum. It is a background note of wrongness, a quiet signal from deep within your own jaw that something has begun to break down. Your teeth are not like the teeth of your distant descendants will be. They are not plagued by the sugary rot that will define modern dentistry. Your diet of coarse vegetables and grains is almost entirely free of sugar. But your teeth face a different, and in some ways, more relentless enemy: grit. The flour used to bake your daily bread is ground between two massive millstones, a process that scrapes a fine, abrasive dust into every single batch. Every slice of bread you eat is, in essence, a piece of fine grit sandpaper. For your entire life, you have been grinding your teeth down. Year after year, the hard, protective enamel has been slowly worn away, abraded by the very food that sustains you. Now, in your 30s, your molars are flattened, their surfaces worn down to the softer, more sensitive layer of dentin that lies beneath. This is the source of your new, unwelcome sensation. You run your fingernail over the top of the aching tooth. You can feel the deep grooves and pits worn into its surface. You might even feel a tiny, sharp edge where a piece has chipped away under the strain. There is no dark spot of decay, just the evidence of a lifetime of hard work. Before you prepare for sleep, you decide to clean your teeth, hoping the strange feeling will go away. Your method of dental hygiene is simple and rustic. You go to the small pile of sticks near the hearth and select a twig from a hazel tree. You chew on one end, softening and fraying the fibers until it becomes a small, primitive brush. With this chew stick, you vigorously scrub at your teeth, trying to dislodge any trapped morsels of food. Afterwards, you take a corner of a rough linen cloth, dip it in a small bowl of water, mixed with salt and a bit of clean soot from the fire, and rub your teeth until they feel smooth to your tongue. You do this not to prevent cavities, a concept you do not have, but simply to have a clean-feeling mouth. Paleopathologists who study ancient remains often debate whether the dental health of your era was truly better or worse than that of the modern world. While you suffer from far fewer sugar-induced cavities, the rates of severe dental wear, painful abscesses caused by the exposed pulp, and eventual tooth loss from this grinding attrition were astonishingly high. It was simply a different, more mechanical kind of dental disaster. The cleaning does not help. The tooth still feels present. It has an awareness you have never felt before. It is not a loud pain, not yet. It is a quiet, insistent, and deeply unsettling hum. It is the first whisper of a long and terrible conversation your body is about to have with you. You lie down on your straw pallet, the familiar smells of smoke and damp earth surrounding you. You press your tongue against the tooth one last time. It's still there. That low, quiet ache. As you drift off into a fitful sleep, you hope that it is just a passing strangeness, a phantom feeling that will be gone by morning. But deep down, you have a cold, sinking feeling that this is not an ending. This is a beginning. And you have no idea how much it is going to hurt. Your hope that sleep would solve the problem is a fool's hope. You awaken in the deep, silent darkness of the middle of the night, not gently, but with a jolt. The low, humming ache in your molar has changed. It has sharpened, deepened, and found a rhythm. It is now a distinct, insistent, and malevolent throbbing, a beat that seems to be in time with your own terrified heart. Throb, throb. The pain is no longer a vague suggestion. It is a loud and clear declaration of war. You lie perfectly still on your straw pallet, cradling your jaw in your hand as if to physically contain the agony. The nature of the pain is what makes it so terrifying. It feels internal, like something is alive inside the tooth, something moving and pulsing with a life of its own. It is a feeling of being gnawed upon from within. And in your mind, you know exactly what it is. The pain has an ancient and terrible name. It is the toothworm. This is the fundamental truth of dentistry in your world, a piece of wisdom as old as the pyramids. You believe that a toothache is caused by a tiny, writhing worm that has invaded the tooth. Perhaps it was born from a cursed seed of food that became lodged in a crack. Perhaps it burrowed its way in from the outside, invisible and insidious. However it got there, it is now living deep inside the hollow of your molar, chewing on the tender roots and sensitive pulp, growing fat on your own misery. The small pit on the surface of your tooth is not a sign of decay. It is the mouth of the worm's lair. This is not a vague superstition. It is a diagnosis based on what you consider to be hard evidence. You have heard the stories from the old men in the village. You have heard of people whose teeth became so rotten, they eventually crumbled and broke apart. And when the fragments were examined, a small, white, thread-like object was sometimes found in the cavity. The dead body of the vanquished worm. What you and they could never know is that this worm was, in fact, the exposed and now dead nerve pulp of the tooth, a tiny bundle of tissue that, to the naked and untrained eye, looks for all the world like a little white worm. This proof has been sufficient to keep the theory alive for thousands of years. The belief is absolute, as certain to you as the rising of the sun. Historians of science and medicine ponder why this toothworm theory was so incredibly persistent, lasting for millennia across countless cultures, from ancient Mesopotamia to your own medieval Europe. Was it simply the best available explanation for a mysterious internal pain that seemed to have no external cause? Or did giving the agony a physical form a tiny, malevolent creature make it feel more comprehensible, providing a tangible enemy that could, at least in theory, be fought, poisoned, and expelled? For you, the effect is simple. The pain is no longer just a pain. It is a violation. It is a tiny, evil parasite, a squirming lodger taking up residence inside your own body without your permission. The thought makes your skin crawl. The pain is no longer something to be endured, but an enemy to be attacked. You do not sleep again for the rest of the night. You lie there, listening to the slow breathing of your family, while the worm in your tooth performs its slow, agonizing work. When morning comes, the pain is still there, a constant, throbbing companion. It makes eating your breakfast, of course, bread and pottage, a new kind of torture. A simple pressure of chewing sends a spike of sharp agony through your jaw and up into your eye. You chew slowly, carefully, on the other side of your mouth, your whole body tensed in anticipation of another jolt of pain. The day's work in the fields awaits, but you don't know how you will manage it. The pain is a constant humming distraction that makes it hard to think, hard to focus. You know you cannot let this continue. You cannot simply wait for the worm to destroy the tooth completely, for the pain to become so unbearable that you cannot function. You must take action. You must try to fight back. You must attempt the simple first line of defense against this internal invader. The home remedies, the herbal magic passed down from your mother, and from her mother before her. You must try to soothe the worm, or poison it in its lair. The sun has risen, but its light brings no warmth, no relief. The world has been reduced to the small, throbbing universe of your aching tooth. The worm, as you now think of it, is relentlessly active. It's gnawing a constant, miserable distraction from the tasks of the day. You know you cannot face the long hours of labor in the fields in this state. Before you do anything else, you must try to appease the tiny tyrant in your jaw. This is the moment for home remedies, the simple first-line defenses that your family has relied upon for generations. Your spouse, seeing the pain etched on your face, takes charge. She is the keeper of your household's medicinal knowledge, a wisdom passed down not from books, but from mother to daughter. She first prepares a simple, soothing rinse. She takes a cup of warm water and mixes in a generous pinch of salt. Salt is precious, but its cleansing, purifying properties are well known. You swish the warm, salty water around in your mouth, holding it over the aching tooth, the sharp, clean taste a momentary distraction from the deeper pain. It offers a fleeting sense of cleanliness, but the throbbing soon returns unabated. The rinse having failed, it is time for a poultice. Your spouse goes to the small collection of dried herbs that hangs from the rafters of your hut. She selects the leaves of a plantain, a common weed you know for its power to draw out splinters and soothe bee stings. She chews the dried leaves into a soft, green, pulpy mass, then takes the warm, moist wad and carefully presses it against the swollen gum around your aching tooth. The taste is bitter and grassy, but you hold it there, praying its well-known healing virtue will penetrate the bone and calm the worm. You sit patiently by the fire for a long time, the green paste slowly dissolving in your mouth, but the worm, it seems, is unimpressed. The pain continues its rhythmic assault. The failure of the common remedies forces you to escalate. This is now a matter not just of medicine, but of faith. The pain, you reason, must be a punishment for some small, forgotten sin, or perhaps the work of a minor demon who has taken the form of the worm. If earthly remedies have failed, you must appeal to a higher power. You turn your thoughts to Saint Apollonia. You know her story well. It is depicted in a small painted panel in the village church. She was a pious woman in a time of persecution who refused to renounce her faith. As punishment, her tormentors shattered her jaw and one by one pulled out all of her teeth with brutal iron pincers before finally burning her at the stake. Because of her suffering, she is now in heaven, and God has granted her the special power to intercede on behalf of anyone suffering from the same agony she endured. She is the patron saint of the toothache. You do not have a formal prayer written down. Instead, you compose a simple, heartfelt plea in your own mind. You picture the saint, her jaw bloody, but her eyes serene, and you speak to her directly. "O holy Apollonia," you murmur, your own jaw aching in sympathy with her ancient martyrdom. "You who know this torment, I beg you, ask the Lord to have mercy. Command this wicked worm to cease its gnawing. Grant me release from this agony, and I will light a candle in your honor at the church." It is a spiritual bargain, a direct appeal from a sufferer to a specialist. While you are lost in your prayer, your spouse prepares one final, powerful home remedy, one that combines both the physical and the magical. She takes a single clove of garlic, a plant known for its power to ward off evil of all kinds, and crushes it. Then she mixes the pungent paste with a pinch of soot scraped from the back of the hearth. This soot is not just any dirt. It comes from the fire that is the heart of your home, and so it is believed to hold a protective domestic magic. She applies this dark, strong-smelling paste to your gum. The sharp, burning sensation of the raw garlic is a powerful counter-irritant, a new pain that, for a few blessed moments, actually distracts you from the deeper, throbbing one. You now have all your defenses in place. The salty water has purified your mouth. The plantain poultice has offered its green virtue. The garlic and soot paste is waging its magical, chemical war on the worm. And your prayer has been sent on its long journey to heaven. You sit and wait, your body a battlefield of competing pains and remedies. Medical anthropologists and historians of folk magic debate the true function of such multi-layered home cures. Was each step based on a sincere, distinct belief, the salt for purifying, the herb for healing, the prayer for divine aid? Or was the power in the ritual itself, the very act of trying so many different things, a kind of psychological comfort, a way of feeling proactive and in control in the face of an uncontrollable pain? For you, the answer is simple. Nothing is working. The garlic's burn fades, and the familiar, deep, malevolent throb of the worm returns, stronger than ever, as if angered by your attempts to dislodge it. The home remedies have failed. Your simple prayers have gone unanswered. The pain is now so constant and so consuming that you can barely think straight. You are losing the battle. It is now clear that this is no ordinary toothworm. It is a stubborn, powerful affliction, one that requires a deeper, more secret knowledge than your own household possesses. You must seek out a specialist. Not a barber surgeon, not yet. That is a step of last resort. You need someone who knows the secret properties of plants and the more powerful ancient charms. You need a wise woman. The garlic paste is a fiery agony on your gum, but it does nothing to touch the deep, throbbing pain within the tooth itself. Your prayer to Saint Apollonia has gone unanswered. The simple remedies of your own household have been exhausted and have failed. The pain is now a relentless, grinding presence that is starting to fray your sanity. You have reached the end of your own knowledge, and when that happens, there is only one person in the village to turn to. You must visit the wise woman. You walk to her hut, which sits a little apart from the others, nestled against the edge of the dark woods. Her home is distinguished by the sprawling, chaotic garden that surrounds it, a living library of plants both common and strange. Bunches of herbs hang drying from the eaves of her thatched roof, filling the air with a complex medicinal scent. She is a woman who lives in a world of green things and ancient knowledge. You duck through her low doorway into a room that is even darker and smokier than your own. The air inside is thick with the smell of drying plants, simmering potions, and something else, something earthy and mysterious. The wise woman herself is sitting by the hearth, her face a web of deep wrinkles, her eyes sharp and intelligent. She may be a widow, or she may have never married. Her solitary life gives her an aura of otherness, a separation from the ordinary world of husbands and children. She is your community's midwife, its veterinarian, its herbalist, and its keeper of the old folk magic that hums just beneath the surface of the Christian faith. She listens patiently as you tell your story, your words punctuated by winces of pain. You describe the onset of the ache, the feeling of the worm, and the failure of your own remedies. She nods, her expression communicating both a deep, weary sympathy and a professional calm. She has seen this 1,000 times. She agrees with your diagnosis. It is a toothworm, a stubborn one, perhaps encouraged by a misalignment of your internal humors or a minor curse laid by an envious neighbor. First, she turns to her formidable arsenal of herbs. The simple plantain you used is for children and minor scrapes. For a pain like yours, she prepares a more potent poultice. She takes the bark of a willow tree, which you know is sovereign for all aches, and crushes it into a powder. To this she adds a dried, foreign-looking bud that smells of a warm, sweet spice of clove, a rare and expensive medicine. She mixes this with a bit of honey to form a thick, dark paste and applies it directly to your swollen gum. The effect is almost immediate. A pleasant, spreading numbness from the clove bud begins to deaden the pain, the first real relief you have felt in days. But this is only a temporary solution to mask the pain. To truly solve the problem, the worm must be dealt with directly. For this, she turns from medicine to magic. She hands you a rusty iron nail, long and bent. Press the head of this to your tooth, she instructs. Push the pain from yourself into the cold iron. You do as you are told, holding the nail against your jaw, imagining the throbbing ache flowing out of your body and into the metal. After a long moment, she takes the nail from you. She leads you outside, and with a small heavy stone, she hammers the nail deep into the trunk of an ancient, gnarled oak tree at the edge of her garden, all the while chanting a string of words in a low rhythmic monotone you cannot understand. The pain has been trapped, imprisoned in the heart of the tree. This is sympathetic magic, the belief that you can transfer an ailment to another object. You watch her, half in awe of her ancient wisdom, half in fear of its power. She is your best hope, a respected healer. But you know, as everyone does, the thin, dangerous line she walks every day. Historians and anthropologists debate the distinction between a revered wise woman, like her, and someone who could be accused of witchcraft. Often, the only difference was the outcome of her cures and the goodwill of her neighbors. If her remedies worked, she was a blessed healer, using God-given knowledge of the earth. If they failed, or if someone's cow happened to sicken and die after she had been seen nearby, that same secret knowledge could easily be reinterpreted as a sign of dark malice, a pact with the devil. Her position in the village is as precarious as your health. She gives you one final instruction. She leans in close, her breath smelling of dried herbs, and whispers a short rhythmic charm directly at your afflicted jaw, an incantation meant for the worm itself. "Little worm, I conjure thee," she whispers, "from my tooth you now must flee. By nail and oak and saintly plea, gnaw no more, and set me free." You leave her hut feeling dazed and hopeful. Your jaw is pleasantly numb from the clove, your mind is swimming from the power of the ritual, and your soul is clinging to the belief that your pain is now nailed to a tree. For the rest of the day, you are in a state of muted relief. But as evening falls and you lie down to sleep, the numbness begins to fade. And as it does, you feel a familiar, unwelcome sensation, a low, deep, steady throb. The worm, it seems, is still there. The magic has failed. But the wise woman is not out of tricks. She has one last, theatrical, and seemingly undeniable method to prove to you that the worm can be vanquished. She told you to return at dawn if the pain remained, for the fumigation. The long night is a trial by fire, or rather, a trial by throbbing. The temporary numbness from the wise woman's clove poultice has long since faded, and the pain in your jaw has returned with a furious, vengeful intensity. Sleep is impossible. You can only lie there in the dark, pressing your hand to your swollen face, enduring the relentless, pulsing agony. The worm is mocking your feeble attempts to dislodge it. As soon as the first gray light of dawn appears, you rise from your pallet. There is one last hope, one final, dramatic cure the wise woman offered. You pull on your tunic and make your way back to her hut, your every step a jarring misery. She is expecting you. The atmosphere inside her smoky home is different this morning. It is not one of herbal medicine, but of serious, focused ritual. A small charcoal brazier sits on the dirt floor, its coals glowing with a dull red heat. Beside it rests a bowl of clean, clear water, and a strange-looking funnel carved from a hollowed-out animal horn. She gestures for you to kneel. From a small, tightly sealed leather pouch she wears around her neck, she takes a tiny pinch of black, dusty-looking seeds. "Henbane," she says, her voice low and grave. "A plant of great power. It can give the gift of dreamless sleep, but it can also steal the wits of a man who does not respect it. We will use its smoke to drive the worm from its lair." You know of henbane. It is a plant whispered about with both reverence and fear, a key ingredient in potions for pain, but also a known and dangerous poison. This is a powerful and desperate magic. She sprinkles a few of the tiny seeds directly onto the hot coals. They don't burst into flame, but begin to smolder almost immediately, releasing a thick, oily, and acrid smoke that smells deeply unpleasant. She takes the horn funnel, placing the wide end over the smoking seeds to collect the fumes. She gestures to you. "Hold your mouth open," she commands. "Breathe in the smoke. Let it fill your mouth and surround the tooth. Let the spirit of the henbane seek out the worm and force it to flee." You do as you are told, leaning over the brazier as she holds the narrow end of the funnel to your lips. You inhale. The smoke is harsh, hot, and stings the back of your throat, making you want to cough and gag, but you force yourself to draw it in. You hold the bitter smoke in your mouth, swishing it around the aching molar, trying to force its power deep into the root. After the first few breaths, a strange transformation begins. A pleasant, spreading numbness, far more profound than the clove, starts to bloom in your jaw. The sharp, violet edges of the pain begin to soften, receding into a dull, distant throb. The room seems to waver slightly. You feel lightheaded, your thoughts becoming slow and syrupy. You are feeling the potent narcotic effects of the plant, your mind gently disconnecting from the agony of your body. After several long minutes of this, when you are feeling woozy and detached from the world, the wise woman removes the funnel. "Now," she says, her voice seeming to come from a great distance, "spit into the water, expel the beast." You lean over the bowl of clean water and spit out the accumulated saliva and smoke. The wise woman leans over with you, her eyes sharp. She points a bony finger into the water. "Behold," she says, her voice filled with triumph. And as your eyes struggle to focus, you see it. Floating on the surface of the water and scattered at the bottom of the bowl are a half-dozen tiny black squiggly specks. They look, for all the world, like tiny dead worms. A wave of dizzy, euphoric relief washes over you. It is a miracle. The proof is right there, floating in the bowl. The worm, the source of all your misery, has been driven out by the powerful smoke. You stare at the proof with wide, amazed eyes. Ethnobotanists and medical historians question the intent behind this widespread and ancient ritual. Was it a cynical piece of sleight of hand? A deliberate trick played on a desperate and credulous patient, knowing the worms were just the charred remnants of the seeds? Or did the healers themselves genuinely believe that the specks were the expelled worms, their belief reinforced every time a patient, woozy and numb from the narcotic smoke, proclaimed that the pain had indeed vanished? You, of course, have no such doubts. You have seen the miracle with your own eyes. The pain is a dull ghost of what it was, and the creature that caused it is now drowned in a bowl of water. You thank the wise woman with all the sincerity of a man pulled back from a cliff edge. You promise her a portion of your next harvest, a debt you will gladly pay for this deliverance. You walk away from her hut, your head still light and swimming, your mouth dry and numb, but your heart soaring with victory. You have done it. You have faced the worm and banished it. But your victory is, sadly, an illusion. As the day wears on and you return to your work, the powerful narcotic effects of the henbane begin to fade. The numbness in your jaw recedes. And as it does, a familiar, unwelcome presence makes itself known once more. It starts as a low hum, and then slowly, inexorably, builds back into the deep, foundational, throbbing pain you know so well. The miracle was a trick of smoke and shadow. The worm is still there, and it is angrier than ever. The false dawn provided by the henbane smoke has given way to the grim, high noon of your agony. The numbness has completely vanished, and the pain has returned with a ferocity that feels like a personal punishment for your brief, foolish hope. The wise woman's magic has failed. The tooth worm, or whatever this evil is, remains emboldened and relentless. You have exhausted the wisdom of your village. There is only one path left, a path that leads away from home, and towards the town, a path that will cost you what little you have. The journey to town is a blur of misery. Every jarring step of your walk sends a sympathetic shockwave through your jaw. The sun seems too bright, the sounds of the birds too loud. Your entire world has shrunk to the throbbing, incandescent point of pain centered in your tooth. By the time you stumble through the town gates, you are a man at the end of his rope, desperate for any cure, at any price. You ignore the market, the alehouse, all the usual distractions of the town. You have only one destination. You find the apothecary's shop on a quiet side street, its painted sign of a mortar and pestle a beacon of hope in your sea of pain. You push open the door and step into the cool, dark, and blessedly quiet interior. The air is thick with the scent of 100 dried herbs and strange, exotic spices. It smells like a place of serious, powerful magic. The apothecary, a quiet, scholarly man in a clean apron, listens to your story with a look of professional gravity. He inspects your mouth, peering at the offending tooth, and shakes his head with a sigh. He dismisses your village remedies with a subtle wave of his hand. A worm? Perhaps? But the true cause, he explains, is an imbalance of the humors. A pocket of corrupt, hot humor has settled in your jaw, and it is this that is causing the pain and putrefaction. The cure is not to attack a mythical worm, but to rebalance the humors with the correct application of specific, powerful substances. He turns to the towering shelves behind him, a library of potential cures. This is not the simple herbalism of the wise woman. This is a higher, more complex, and far more expensive art. He begins to lay out your options. He might first suggest a rare and potent mouthwash. He takes down a jar of strong wine vinegar and mixes into it a pinch of the shimmering white powder. It is, he explains, finely ground pearl. The pearl, born of the water, has a powerful cooling and moistening quality, a direct antidote to the hot corruption in your jaw. For the pain itself, he shows you a small, dark, sticky ball of a substance he calls theriac. It is a legendary compound, a cure-all, containing dozens of ingredients, including opium, ground gemstones, and the flesh of vipers. A tiny piece of this, held against the gum, is said to deaden the most ferocious pain and fight off any poison. But for a corruption as deep as yours, he says, a more direct approach is needed. He pulls down a heavy stone jar and shows you its contents. A dark, crumbly, dusty powder with a strange, ancient, resinous smell. It is mumia, he explains with reverence. Powdered mummy, brought at immense expense on the long journey from the tombs of ancient Egypt. The logic is compelling to your desperate mind. The same powerful substances that preserved the bodies of the pharaohs for thousands of years can be used to fight the decay in your own flesh. You gaze at these incredibly rare and exotic ingredients, pearls from the sea, viper's flesh from the south, the very dust of the ancient kings. They must be powerful. Their journey here is a testament to their value. Historians of pharmacy and commerce debate the primary driver of this trade. Was it a sincere, if flawed, belief in the medical efficacy of these rare substances, in their humoral properties of hot, cold, wet, and dry? Or was the apothecary's shop essentially a luxury goods market where the wealthy and the desperate paid exorbitant prices for the status and psychological comfort of using the rarest? Most expensive cures on earth, their value derived not from their proven effect, but from their sheer cost and foreignness. The apothecary can see the awe and desperation in your eyes. He tells you the price. For a small packet of the mummy powder, mixed with a bit of honey to make a paste, the cost is a staggering sum, more than you might earn in months of hard labor. It is almost everything you have. But the pain in your jaw, a blinding, relentless torment, makes the decision for you. A life without this pain is worth any price. Your hand trembles as you give him the coins. He carefully measures out a small amount of the precious dust, mixes it with honey, and gives you the small, sticky packet. He instructs you to apply it directly to the source of the pain. With a sense of profound and desperate hope, you do so right there in his shop. You smear the gritty, dark, and bitter-tasting paste onto your swollen thumb. This is it. This is not the simple folk magic of your village. This is the accumulated wisdom of the ancients, a cure bought with silver. It must work. You leave the quiet, scholarly shop, your purse now empty, your mouth tasting of honey and ancient dust. You walk a few paces down the street and wait for the miracle, for the blessed relief to begin. But there is no miracle. The pain does not recede. It continues its deep, foundational, throbbing assault, seeming to mock the expensive remedy you have smeared upon it. The mummy dust has failed. The most advanced pharmacology your world has to offer has proven useless. And as you stand there in the street, overwhelmed by a new wave of agony and the crushing weight of your own poverty, you feel a new sensation, a sickening feverish heat beginning to spread from your jaw throughout your entire body. The infection is no longer contained. You stumble away from the apothecary's shop in a daze of pain and disappointment. The empty pouch at your belt is a testament to your desperation, and the gritty, useless paste of mummy dust in your mouth is a bitter mockery of your hope. As you begin the long, miserable walk back to your village, you notice a new and alarming sensation. It is a sickly, feverish warmth that is spreading from your jaw outwards, a tide of heat that has nothing to do with the afternoon sun. The sickness is changing. By the time you reach your hut, the transformation is undeniable. The pain is no longer a sharp, localized agony centered on a single tooth. It has become a vast, booming, and diffuse misery that encompasses the entire side of your head. You look at your reflection in the still water of a bucket, and you barely recognize yourself. Your cheek and jaw are swollen to the size of a small melon, the skin stretched tight, shiny, and hot to the touch. Your eye on that side is nearly forced shut by the swelling. The tooth worm, it seems, has called for reinforcements. You collapse onto your straw pallet, your body now racked with chills that make your teeth chatter, despite the fire burning in your skin. The fever has taken hold. This is the moment the toothache ceases to be a dental problem and becomes a battle for your life. The corruption, the poison from the dying root of your tooth, has escaped its prison of bone and has entered your bloodstream. The invisible evils are now marching through your entire body. In your mind, you struggle to understand what is happening. The swelling must be the physical evidence of the great struggle within. Perhaps the worm, enraged by the potions and prayers, is now trying to chew its way out through the flesh of your cheek. Or perhaps, as the learned men would say, the putrid, hot humors generated by the rotting tooth have built up to such a great pressure that they are forcing the flesh outwards, seeking an escape. The fever is the heat of this internal battle, your own blood boiling as it fights the corruption. The reflection you saw in the bucket is terrifying. Your own face is distorted, a monstrous parody of itself. Medical historians point to this stage of a dental infection as the critical turning point in pre-modern diagnosis. Before now, your problem was a tooth worm, a localized, almost mechanical issue that could be addressed with a poultice or a charm. Now, with the dramatic swelling and the systemic fever, it has transformed into a whole-body illness. It is no longer a matter for a folk healer or even an apothecary. It has become a fever of the humors, a grand, systemic imbalance that now falls into the realm of the university-trained physician. Your family is terrified. They see the change in you. Your skin is flushed, your eyes are glassy, and you are beginning to murmur nonsensically, your mind wandering in the fever's haze. They try what they can. They place cool, damp cloths on your forehead, a small temporary comfort against the raging heat. They pray, their whispers a constant, desperate sound in the small, smoky hut. Your world shrinks to the size of your straw mattress. You can no longer eat. The slightest pressure on your jaw, even the act of opening your mouth, sends a wave of blinding, nauseating pain through your skull. You can barely drink, sipping tiny amounts of water or thin ale, each swallow an agonizing effort. You are too weak and dizzy to stand, the hut spinning violently whenever you try to lift your head. You drift in and out of consciousness, lost in a fever dream of pain. The only reality is the immense, burning, and pressurized agony of your own head. The swelling grows, the skin becoming so taut it feels it might burst. A new, foul taste fills your mouth as the abscess. The great pocket of corruption inside your jaw begins to drain into your throat. You are drowning in the poison your own body is creating. You are acutely aware, in your fleeting moments of clarity, that you are losing. The sickness is winning. The simple toothache has become a rampaging monster, and it is dragging you down into a dark, hot, and painful oblivion. Your family, watching you slip away, knows that there is only one last, desperate, and ruinously expensive hope left. They must send for the physician. You are floating in a hot, dark, and painful sea. Your consciousness is a small boat, tossed on the waves of a raging fever. You are aware of hushed, frightened voices, of a cool cloth on your forehead, but it is all distant, disconnected. Then, a new presence fills the small hut. A man with a calm, authoritative voice. Your family, in their final desperation, has done the ruinously expensive thing. They have summoned a physician. He is a man of learning and status, and he carries himself with an air of immense intellectual gravity. He stands near the hearth, well away from your straw pallet and the contagion of your sickness, his fine fur-lined robes a stark contrast to the poverty of your home. He does not approach you. He does not lay a hand on your feverish skin. And most importantly, he does not ask to look at the monstrous swollen mass of your jaw, the obvious source of all your agony. To him, the swollen face is not the disease. It is merely a symptom, an outward sign of a much deeper, more fundamental chaos within your entire system. The tooth itself is a trivial detail, a matter for a lowly craftsman like a barber surgeon. He is here to treat the true illness. His examination is one of observation and interrogation. He asks your spouse about your diet, your temperament, the color of your excrement. Then he asks for the most crucial piece of evidence. Your family reverently hands him a clay pot containing your urine, which they have carefully saved for his inspection. He produces a special pear-shaped glass flask called a matula, into which he decants the dark, cloudy liquid. This is the art of uroscopy, the pinnacle of learned medical diagnosis. He holds the flask up to the light of the doorway, studying it with the intense concentration of a jeweler examining a gemstone. He assesses its color against a complex chart he carries, a wheel of some 20 different hues, each signifying a different internal state. He notes the thick sediment, the materia, that has settled at the bottom. He may even unstopper the flask and take a quick, discerning sniff of the fumes. He cares more about the state of this liquid than he does about the visible, agonizing affliction on your face. After a long, silent contemplation, he is ready to pronounce his diagnosis. He does not say, "You have a severe dental abscess that has led to a systemic infection." He says, "The patient is suffering from a surfeit of blood, a sanguine plethora, which has become corrupted and is now boiling with an excess of choler." His understanding of your sickness is based entirely on the ancient theory of the four humors. The problem, as he sees it, is that your body's internal furnace is out of control. Your blood, a hot and moist humor, is too plentiful and has begun to putrefy with excessive heat. This has generated a surge of choler, or yellow bile, which is hot and dry. This internal boiling is what's producing the fever and the painful, hot swelling. He speaks of qualities and humors, of imbalances and corruptions. He has not once mentioned your tooth. Historians of medicine often note the great chasm that existed between the world of the university-trained physician and that of the hands-on surgeon or folk healer. The surgeon would see the problem as a rotten tooth that needed to be pulled. The physician, a man of high theory and classical texts, sees that as a job for a vulgar tradesman. He is here to treat the great systemic imbalance described in the ancient books of the Greek physician Galen, often completely ignoring the obvious localized source of a patient's suffering. Having identified the problem, the solution to him is perfectly logical and brutally simple. If the body is suffering from an excess of hot, corrupt blood, then the corrupt blood must be removed. His first prescription is an immediate and aggressive bloodletting, to be performed by the barber surgeon. A generous amount must be let, he explains, to release the heat and relieve the pressure on the system. Furthermore, the excessive scorched, angry choler must be purged from the body. To achieve this, he prescribes a powerful purgative, an herbal concoction designed to violently empty your bowels, and a strong emetic to make you vomit, thus expelling the corrupt humor from your stomach. This course of treatment is, in reality, the worst possible thing for you. You are already dangerously dehydrated from the fever and your inability to drink. To drain you of blood, and then to empty your system of what little fluid remains through purging and vomiting, will not cure you. It will catastrophically weaken your body's ability to fight the actual infection, and very likely kill you. The physician, his duty done, collects his exorbitant fee sum that will plunge your family into debt for a year or more. He gives your family the specific instructions for the bleeding and the recipe for the purgative, and then he leaves, confident in his learned, logical, and entirely wrong diagnosis. Your family is left in stunned silence, looking from your weak, delirious form on the pallet to the terrifying instructions left by the man of learning. They are faced with a horrific choice. Do they follow the expert as advice and subject, you to a torturous procedure that will surely weaken you further, or do they disobey the man of medicine and let the fever take its course? The agony in your face, however, seems to make the decision for them. Any action, no matter how violent, feels better than doing nothing at all. Your family, placing their trust in the physician's solemn authority over their own fearful instincts, resolves to follow his instructions. The barber surgeon is summoned. He sees the physician's written orders and nods grimly. He is just the instrument. The diagnosis comes from a higher learning. He ties the cord around your arm, and in your feverish, weakened state, you barely feel the prick of the lancet. You can only watch with a detached horror as your own vital fluid, your life force, drains away into his brass bowl. After the bleeding, your spouse prepares the purgative potion prescribed by the doctor. The bitter, foul-tasting liquid is forced between your lips. The effect is almost immediate and utterly catastrophic. Your body, already ravaged by fever and dehydration, is seized by violent, racking cramps. You are overcome with waves of vomiting and diarrhea that leave you completely and utterly drained, a hollowed-out husk of a man. The physician's cure, designed to purge the evil humors, has succeeded only in purging you of what little strength you had left to fight. Now, with your body's defenses shattered, the infection rages unchecked. The swelling, which had been confined to your jaw and cheek, begins its terrifying march. It spreads down into your neck, hot, hard, and exquisitely tender. It becomes difficult to swallow, and each breath you take is a shallow, rasping struggle against the internal pressure. The skin over the swelling is stretched so tight it shines, and it radiates a heat that feels like a live coal held against your face. The toothache has metastasized into a monstrous life-threatening cellulitis that is suffocating you from within. Your world shrinks and dissolves. There is no day or night, only a continuous, timeless ocean of pain. The concept of a toothache is a distant, almost quaint memory. The pain now is your entire universe. It is a hot, sharp iron being twisted in the bone of your jaw. It is a band of fire tightening around your skull. It is a great, booming drum beating inside your head, its rhythm the single, all-consuming fact of your existence. The fever throws you into a state of delirium. The smoky confines of your hut become a landscape of waking nightmares. You see leering, demonic faces in the patterns of the thatched roof. You hear the crackle of the fire become a chorus of whispering, mocking voices. You are no longer in your own body, but are floating in a hot, red fog, a passive observer to your own agonizing dissolution. Your family, unable to bear watching your torment any longer, resorts to one last, desperate measure of mercy. Your spouse returns from a hasty visit to the apothecary, clutching a small, precious object, a soporific sponge. It is a sea sponge that has been soaked in a potent, narcotic cocktail of opium, mandrake root, and henbane, and then left to dry. It is a dangerous tool, a form of crude and unpredictable anesthesia. Your spouse moistens the sponge with a little warm water and holds it to your nose and mouth. You inhale the strange, sweet, and musty fumes. The effect is slow and sudden. The sharp, screaming edges of the pain begin to soften, to blur, to recede. The terrifying visions shimmer and fade. The world dissolves not into a red fog of pain, but into a quiet, gray, and blessedly silent twilight. For a few hours, you are granted a miraculous reprieve. You are asleep. The relief is a gift from heaven, a temporary silence in the cacophony of your own body. Historians who study the experience of pain argue that your ancestors were not somehow tougher or physiologically less sensitive to agony than modern people. Their nerves were the same. They simply had no alternative but to endure it, to live with a level of pain that would be considered a medical emergency today. They developed powerful cultural and religious frameworks to give meaning to their suffering, to see it as a test from God, a penance for sin, or a way to imitate the sacred suffering of the saints. They were not better at enduring pain. They were just more tragically practiced. But the sponge's mercy is fleeting. As its narcotic effects wear off, you drift back to consciousness. And the pain rushes back in to greet you, an old and hated friend. You have reached the absolute limit of your endurance. Your breathing is a shallow struggle. You are burning up from within. You can feel your own life slipping away. And then, at the very moment you are about to surrender completely, something gives. Deep within your swollen jaw, the abscess, the great pressurized pocket of corruption, finally bursts. A sudden, hot flood of the most foul-tasting liquid imaginable fills your throat, making you gag and choke. It is a wave of pure poison, and it is the most wonderful, life-saving sensation you have ever felt. The unbearable, taut pressure in your head and neck is released. The pain does not vanish, but it changes. A violent, explosive agony recedes, leaving behind a deep, aching, but bearable soreness. The fever begins to break, the first cool sweat of healing appearing on your brow. You have survived. You have passed through the fire, and against all odds, you are still here. But as you lie there, weak and exhausted, you know this is not the end. The source of the poison, the rotten, shattered tooth, is still in your jaw. The crisis has passed, but the disease remains. To truly be free, the tooth must come out. The fever has broken, leaving you in a state of washed-out, bone-weary exhaustion. You are alive, a fact that feels like a miracle. The monstrous swelling in your face has subsided, but the source of the entire ordeal, the rotten, broken tooth, remains in your jaw. It is a dead thing, a splinter of decay that no longer sends out waves of agony, but instead taints your mouth with a constant, foul taste and a low-grade, persistent ache. You know with a grim certainty that as long as it remains, the sickness is only sleeping. Before the corruption can gather its strength and rise again, the tooth must be removed. Your family's small savings were wiped out by the learned physician and the apothecary. Returning to the town to hire a proper barber surgeon is an economic impossibility. But fate, it seems, has offered you another, more dubious opportunity. Word comes to your village that the annual summer fair is underway in a larger village, a half-day's walk away. And with the fair, with its musicians, its puppet shows, and its pie sellers, comes the itinerant tooth puller. With a heart full of dread and necessity, you make the journey. The fair is a chaotic, joyous affair, a rare explosion of color and sound in a world that is often gray and silent. And there, in the midst of it all, you find his stage. It is a small, rickety wooden platform, and its proprietor is a showman. He is a large man, dressed in a mismatched collection of fine, threadbare clothes, a man whose only true skill is a powerful voice and an unshakable confidence. A young boy beside him beats a drum with a steady, attention-grabbing rhythm, a sound designed to draw a crowd and, later, to drown out the screams of the man's patients. This is the charlatan, the traveling tooth puller, and his credentials are not written on a piece of parchment, but are displayed for all to see. Hanging from a pole at the back of his stage is his gruesome advertisement, a long leather banner onto which have been sewn hundreds of extracted teeth. They are a horrific tapestry, decay-brown, black, and yellowed, some still trailing bits of dried gristle, their long crooked roots pointing in all directions. He points to it with a flourish. This is his diploma. This is his testament to his vast experience. Don't waste your silver on the slow, gentle barber surgeons in the town. He booms to the gathering crowd. They will hum and haw and charge you a fortune. I am a simple man of action. I will have that troublesome molar out before you can say Saint Apollonia. His mix of crude jokes and bold promises works. A large crowd has gathered, a mix of curious children, grimacing onlookers, and genuinely suffering potential customers, all drawn to the spectacle. Historians of performance and medicine debate the role of this audience. Were they here for pure, morbid entertainment, the same impulse that drew them to a public flogging or the stocks? Or did the public nature of the extraction also serve as a form of quality control away, to pressure the practitioner into doing a swift and successful job, knowing that his reputation and his livelihood were being forged or shattered before their very eyes? You watch as he coaxes his first victim of the day onto the stage, a burly farmer whose face is tight with pain. The tooth puller gives him a swig of cheap, raw spirit from a flask, claps him on the back, and tells a joke about a priest and a goose. Then, without any more ceremony, he takes out his tool. It is not a complex instrument, just a heavy, crude pair of iron pliers. He instructs the farmer to open his mouth, gets a grip on the offending tooth, plants his own boot on the man's chest for leverage, and gives a single mighty heave. There is a wet, cracking sound, a muffled cry from the farmer, and the tooth is out. The tooth puller holds the bloody prize aloft for the crowd to see, a triumphant glint in his eye. The crowd both cheers and winces. The entire procedure, from joke to extraction, has taken less than 30 seconds. The farmer, spitting a mouthful of blood, stumbles off the stage, his immediate problem solved with brutal efficiency. Now it is your turn. Your legs feel like lead as you climb the 2 shaky steps onto the stage. The world becomes a dizzying blur of the showman's leering face, the glint of the bloody pliers in his hand, and the sea of curious upturned faces in the crowd. The drum begins to beat a little louder. You are given the flask, and you take a deep, burning swallow of the spirit. You sit, and you open your mouth. The tooth puller peers inside, prodding at the ruined landscape of your jaw with a dirty finger. He finds the broken tooth, the source of all your misery. He tries to get a grip on it with his pliers, first from one angle, then another. The iron scrapes against the fragments. He grunts with effort. Then he stops. He pulls his head back and looks at you with an expression of genuine annoyance. "Bah," he says, loud enough for the crowd to hear. "This one's broken off, clean to the gum. There's naught for me to get a hold of." He shakes his head, tossing his pliers onto the table with a clatter. You don't need a puller friend. You need a digger, a man with finer tools than old iron here. He dismisses you from the stage. There will be no charge, as no tooth has been pulled. You are sent away in a state of renewed and crushing despair. Your last, cheapest hope for a cure has been denied to you. The showman, the man of brute force, cannot help you. Your problem, it seems, is too complex. You need a man with more delicate, more fearsome instruments. You need to face the barber surgeon. You leave the fairground, a profound and hollow despair settling over you. The cheap hope offered by the traveling tooth puller has been snatched away, leaving you with a problem that is apparently too complex for simple brute force. The tooth is too broken. The roots are too deep. As you walk away from the cheerful chaos of the fair, you are faced with a terrible decision. There is only one practitioner left who might be able to help you, the town's barber surgeon. And he is not a showman who works for the price of a cheer. He is a guild-trained craftsman who works for silver. You think of your family, of the coming winter. You have almost nothing of value, except for your axe. It was your father's, its iron head worn but still true, its handle shaped by his hands, and then your own. It is your most vital tool, your means of cutting firewood to survive the cold. With a heart like a lead weight, you find a merchant in the town, a man who deals in second-hand goods, and you barter it away for a few small silver coins. The price of this procedure will be your ability to stay warm. With the coins heavy and cold in your pouch, you walk back through the town streets, this time with a specific terrifying destination in mind. You find the shop with the red and white striped pole, the place you had only observed before. This time, you are not a curious spectator. You are the patient. You step inside. The room smells of soap, old blood, and a faint, sharp scent of iron. It is a place of grim, practical work. The barber surgeon is there, cleaning his instruments after his last customer. He is a strong, serious man, his leather apron a testament to the messy realities of his trade. He sees the swelling that still lingers on your jaw and the desperation in your eyes, and he gestures you to the sturdy chair in the center of the room. You sit down, your heart pounding. He probes your mouth with a metal tool, his touch surprisingly gentle but firm. He finds the ruined tooth, the shattered crown, the angry, inflamed gum. He lets out a low whistle. "I," he says, his voice matter-of-fact. "The charlatan at the fair was right to turn you away. This is no simple pull. This is a dig. This needs a proper tool." He turns to the wooden table where he keeps the instruments of his trade. He is not just a barber or a surgeon. He is a specialist in what he calls the manual operations of medicine. He lays out his dental tools on a strip of clean linen, and your blood runs cold. These are not the simple pliers of the marketplace performer. These are complex machines of iron designed for leverage and force. He picks up the first one to show you. "This," he says, "is the pelican. It is a terrifying instrument." A long iron handle connects to a shaft with a curved, semicircular bolster that will rest on your gum. Opposite the bolster is a sharp, curved claw, like the beak of the bird it is named for. You understand its brutal logic instantly. The claw will be hooked under the crown of the tooth, and by pulling the handle down, the bolster on your gum will act as a fulcrum, wrenching the tooth out sideways. It is a tool designed to pry your jaw apart. He then shows you another. And for the most stubborn roots, he says, the tooth key. This instrument is even more alien. It looks like a large, crude key used for winding a clock or a crossbow. It has a long iron shaft for a handle, and at the end, a swiveling claw attached to a bolster. He explains how it works. The bolster is placed against the gum. The claw is hooked over the top of the tooth, and then he would turn the handle, just like turning a key in a lock. The twisting motion would, in theory, break the ligaments holding the tooth and lift it cleanly from its socket. You look at these tools of iron and force, and you have to place your faith in the skill of the man who wields them. Yet archaeological finds of skulls from this period often tell a different, more gruesome story. They show evidence of the immense collateral damage these instruments could inflict. Jawbones fractured clean through by the violent torque of the key. Healthy adjacent teeth shattered by the slipping claw of the pelican. And countless cases of broken-off roots left deep in the socket, impossible to retrieve, destined to become a new and even more dangerous source of infection. The promise of relief is inextricably bound to the risk of even greater injury. The barber surgeon studies your ruined molar one last time. The key is too risky here. It will break what's left, he decides. It must be the pelican. We will have to dig for the roots one by one. He selects the instrument. He calls for his young apprentice to come and stand behind you, to hold your head and shoulders steady against the chair. He hands you a small, rolled-up piece of thick leather. Bite down on this on the other side, he instructs, and pray to whichever saint you favor. The world narrows to this single, terrible moment. The face of the barber surgeon, a mask of intense concentration. The feel of the hard leather between your good teeth. The strong hands of the apprentice gripping your shoulders. And the sight of the dental pelican, cold and black and brutally functional, poised before your open, trembling mouth. You close your eyes. The agony is about to begin. You close your eyes, a final futile attempt to retreat from the world. But there is no escape. You feel the cold, hard reality of the dental pelican as it enters your mouth. The surgeon, with a practiced, impersonal touch, maneuvers the instrument into place. You feel the smooth, curved bolster press hard against the outside of your gum, and then the sharp, hooking sensation of the iron claw as it finds a purchase on the jagged, broken crown of your tooth. The apprentice's hands on your shoulders tighten into an iron clamp. There is no turning back now. The surgeon takes a deep breath, and then he begins to apply pressure. It is not a sharp pain, not at first. It is an immense, ungodly, grinding pressure that seems to fill your entire skull. It feels as if the surgeon is trying to lever your jawbone from your head. You grip the arms of the chair, your body rigid, every muscle tensed against the violation. The piece of leather between your good teeth is the only thing that stops you from screaming, your choked grunts, and groans a pathetic rhythm against the surgeon's steady, grunting effort. With sight removed, your world becomes one of sound, and the sounds are all happening inside your own head. You hear a low, deep, groaning and creaking sound, like a great tree root being torn from the earth. It is the sound of your own tooth, of the ligaments that have held it in your jaw your entire life, stretching and tearing under the incredible force. The pressure builds and builds until it is an all-consuming universe of force and impending fracture. Then comes the crack. It is not a loud noise, but a sharp, sickening, internal sound that you feel in your sinuses and at the base of your skull. The crown of the tooth has shattered under the strain of the pelican. The surgeon lets out a curse under his breath. The easy extraction has failed. The top of the tooth is gone, leaving the deep, embedded roots behind. Now the true ordeal begins. The surgeon sets aside the pelican and picks up a set of thinner, sharper, hooked instruments. He must now dig for the fragments. The next few minutes, or is it hours, are a blur of a different kind of pain. It is no longer a steady pressure, but a series of sharp probing and blindingly hot agonies as the surgeon scrapes and digs in the raw, open socket, searching for the broken roots. You feel the iron tools against the raw nerve, against the bone itself. Your world dissolves into a red haze of pure animal agony. The surgeon is not a cruel man, but he is a pragmatist. He is not aiming for a neat or elegant procedure. Historians who study the history of surgery and pain management emphasize that the primary goal in these operations was simply the removal of the source of the pain. If the tooth had to be broken into a dozen pieces, if the jawbone was slightly fractured in the process, if the gum tissue was shredded and ruined, it was all an acceptable if unfortunate price to pay to get the offending root out and stop the infection. Success was not a perfect, clean extraction. Success was a living patient who is no longer screaming in pain a week later. He finds a purchase on the main route. He gives you no warning. He gives another great, twisting heave. You feel a final, horrific, wet, tearing sensation, a feeling of something deep within you being ripped free from its foundations. And then silence. The pressure is gone. The iron is removed from your mouth. The world rushes back in with a dizzying speed. The first thing you are aware of is the hot, thick, metallic taste of blood flooding your mouth. The second is the profound, echoing, and almost beautiful ache of the brutalized socket, a hollow space where the torment used to be. But the third, and most glorious, sensation is an absence. The sharp, specific, and maddening throb that has been the sun and moon of your world for weeks is gone. The worm is dead. The worm is out. The relief is so profound, it feels like a religious experience. The barber surgeon, his work done, swills your mouth out with a bit of sour wine vinegar that stings the raw wound. He packs the bloody, empty socket with a wad of linen that has been soaked in a bitter, styptic herb to help stop the bleeding. Keep it clean, he grunts, wiping his hands and his bloody instrument on his leather apron. And pray to your saint that it does not fester. You stumble from the chair, your entire body trembling with shock and adrenaline. You pay the man your hard-won silver coins, the price of your axe, the cost of this salvation. You are covered in sweat. Your mouth is a wreck of blood and pain, but you are victorious. You have walked through the very heart of physical agony and have emerged on the other side. The source of the infection has been brutally, violently, but successfully removed. But as you stumble out of the shop and into the street, a new, cold fear begins to settle in. The old danger is gone, but a new one has just been created. You now have a deep, open wound in your jaw, a perfect, gaping doorway for all the filth and invisible evils of the world to enter. The battle against the tooth is over. The battle for your life has just begun. You stumble out of the barber surgeon's shop into the chaotic street, a changed man. The world seems strangely distant and muffled, your senses overwhelmed by the echoing ghost of the pain and the immediate, coppery taste of blood filling your mouth. The relief is so profound, it is a physical sensation, a lightness in your head that makes you dizzy. The tyrant in your jaw has been deposed. But you are keenly aware that you have simply traded one danger for another. The surgeon's final words echo in your mind. Pray it does not fester. You now have a raw, open wound in your mouth, a gaping doorway inviting in all the filth and corruption of the world. The long walk home is a hazy, painful journey. The sharp, piercing agony of the tooth is gone, but in its place is a deep, throbbing, bruised ache that seems to radiate through your entire skull. You keep the wad of linen the surgeon gave you pressed into the bleeding socket, but you can feel it becoming saturated, a warm, wet, and unpleasant lump in your mouth. The first night is a trial. You cannot lie down properly for fear of the bleeding starting anew, so you try to sleep propped up against the wall of your hut, drifting in and out of a shallow, restless slumber. The pain is a constant, dull throb, and the taste of blood is ever present. You have survived the extraction. Now you must survive the healing. In the morning, your spouse inspects the wound. The bleeding has mostly stopped, leaving a dark, messy clot in the empty socket. Now begins the delicate and dangerous process of aftercare. Keeping it clean in your world is a matter of folk wisdom and tradition. You have no understanding of germs, only of corruption and putrefaction, which you believe can be fought with substances that are sharp, pure, or magically protective. Several times a day, you rinse your mouth with a mixture of water and sour wine, the acidity stinging the raw wound, but you believe it is a clean, purifying pain. Your spouse might make a poultice of honey, a substance you know resists spoiling and is therefore pure, and gently apply it around the gum, hoping its virtue will seep into the wound. Or she might turn to another traditional remedy and carefully pack the outer edges of the socket with clean cobwebs, which are believed to have a mysterious power to staunch bleeding and knit wounds together. Some might even recommend applying a hot compress of boiled onions to your outer cheek to draw out any remaining ill humors, a treatment that, in reality, would only create a warm, welcoming environment for any lurking corruption to grow. Every moment of the day is now fraught with a new kind of peril. Every sip of the weak ale you drink to stay hydrated, every mouthful of the soft mashed pottage your spouse prepares for you every time you touch your own face with your unwashed hands, you are risking the introduction of a new enemy into the vulnerable open wound. You survived the agony of the surgeon's chair, but you know that was not the true test. The days that follow the extraction are what will truly determine your fate. Historians and paleopathologists debate the most common cause of death following such a brutal procedure. Was it an immediate, uncontrolled bleed in the hours after the event, a hemorrhage that simply could not be stopped? Or was it what you now fear most, the slow creeping and almost inevitable onset of a systemic infection in the days and weeks that followed? As the filth of the world found its way into the very bone of your jaw, so you wait. The next few days are a tense, quiet vigil. You become a student of your own body, obsessively monitoring every sensation. You wake each morning, and the first thing you do is assess the ache in your jaw. Is it the dull, honest ache of healing, or is it the sharp, insistent throb of returning corruption? You prod the swelling on your cheek. Is it lessening, or does it feel warmer to the touch? You live in a state of suspended animation, your entire future hanging on the battle being waged in the bloody socket of your jaw. For 2 days, it seems your prayers have been answered. The bleeding has stopped completely. The deep, bruised pain begins to slowly, gradually recede. The swelling on your face lessens, and for the first time, you can open your mouth without a jolt of agony. A fragile, tentative sense of hope begins to take root. You believe you have made it. You have passed through the ordeal, faced the worm, endured the iron, and you have survived. The worst is over. But on the evening of the 3rd day, as you are sipping a thin, watery broth, you feel a new and unwelcome sensation. It is not the sharp pain of the tooth, nor the bruised ache of the extraction. It is a deep, chilling throb, a pulse of heat that seems to come from the very center of your jawbone. It is a familiar feeling. It is the feeling of gathering poison. You touch your cheek. The area around the wound feels hot again, and tender in a new and alarming way. A cold dread washes over you, erasing your fragile hope. The surgeon's prayer has gone unanswered. The wound has begun to fester. The invisible enemy, the corruption you have so carefully tried to rinse and ward away, has found a foothold. The fever, you know with a sickening certainty, will not be far behind. You have not been saved. You have only been given a brief reprieve before the final, most desperate battle begins. The hope is short-lived, a cruel trick of the light before the final darkness descends. The deep, hot throb in your jaw quickly blossoms into a full-blown inferno. The fever returns with a terrifying, vengeful force, far worse than when the abscess was first growing. This is not the work of a simple, localized corruption. The poison from the festering wound has entered your blood, and it is now raging through your entire body. You are plunged back into the nightmare world of delirium. Your body is a battlefield, racked by alternating fits of uncontrollable, teeth-chattering chills and periods of intense burning heat that leave you drenched in sweat. You are too weak to move, too weak to even lift your head. The world outside your own body ceases to exist. Your reality is a chaotic storm of pain and confusion. The memories of the past weeks return as terrifying, fever-induced hallucinations. You see the leering, confident face of the quack doctor from the fair, his bottle of poison glowing with a malevolent light. You feel the phantom pressure of the barber surgeon's iron pelican, a ghost of a pain that makes you cry out in your sleep. You see the wise woman, her face shifting from a benevolent healer to a cackling witch, her henbane smoke coiling around you like a serpent. The boundaries between memory and nightmare, between the real world and the fever dream, have dissolved completely. Your family knows you are dying. All attempts at a cure are abandoned. There are no more herbal poultices, no more expensive remedies. The time for medicine is over. Now is the time for the rituals of death. They begin the deathbed vigil. Your small, smoky hut becomes a place of hushed, solemn waiting. Your spouse, your older children, and one or two of your closest neighbors gather around your straw pallet. They are not here to help you live. They are here to help you die. This is a crucial and sacred duty. To die alone was a terrible fate. The dying process was a communal event, a final chapter to be witnessed by those who loved you. They speak in low whispers, their faces grim in the flickering firelight. They are here to offer what little comfort they can, to listen for any final words, and to pray for the safe passage of your soul. The parish priest is summoned. He arrives with his small wooden box containing the holy oils for extreme unction, the last rites. He leans over you, his presence a heavy, serious comfort. You can smell the faint, holy scent of incense still clinging to his vestments. He anoints your forehead with the blessed oil, and he leans in close to hear your final confession. You try to speak, to confess a lifetime of small sins, but your words are a garbled, nonsensical murmur. The priest, practiced in these matters, grants you absolution anyway, preparing your soul for the journey ahead. As you float in and out of consciousness, you feel yourself approaching the great, dark threshold. You can feel your own life force, your spirit, beginning to untether itself from your ravaged body. Historians and theologians have long discussed the medieval perception of the moment of death. Was it seen primarily as a terrifying final judgment, a moment of ultimate spiritual peril, where the demons you dreamed of would battle angels for possession of your soul? Or was it viewed, after a life of such hardship and pain, as a peaceful release, a quiet surrender, a welcome transition into the eternal, painless promise of heaven? In your fevered, delirious state, it feels like both at once. There is a deep, primal fear of the unknown abyss that awaits you. But there is also a profound, seductive yearning for the pain to simply end, for the noise in your head to finally fall silent, for the fire in your body to be extinguished. You feel a strange sense of peace begin to settle over you. The roaring agony in your jaw, and your body begins to recede, becoming a distant, unimportant echo. The faces of your weeping family blur and fade. You feel a sensation of lightness, of floating, of gently drifting away on a calm, dark river. This is it, the end. And then something changes. Deep within you, something holds. Perhaps the abscess, in its final violent push, has found a clear and open path to drain completely. Perhaps your body, having been pushed to the absolute brink, has found one last hidden reserve of strength. Or perhaps it is simply the grace of God, a miracle granted to you at the final possible moment. The fever breaks. It does not fade gently. It shatters in a violent, convulsive wave. A drenching, purging sweat pours from your body, soaking your straw mattress and your thin wool blanket. It is a sweat of healing, a flood that carries the last of the poison out of you. The terrifying hallucinations recede. The all-consuming pain lessens its grip. And for the first time in what feels like a lifetime, you fall into a deep, dark, and natural sleep. A sleep not of stupor or of sickness, but of profound and absolute exhaustion. You awaken many hours later. The sun is streaming through the doorway of your hut. The fever is gone. Your mind is clear. The pain in your jaw is a dull, hollow, and wonderfully manageable ache. You are weaker than a newborn kitten, your body gaunt and fragile. But you are alive. You have been to the very gates of death and have been turned away. You have survived. The days that follow your fever breaking are a slow, quiet, and hazy journey back into the world of the living. You are like a ghost relearning how to inhabit its own body. Your weakness is profound, a deep cellular exhaustion that makes the simple act of lifting your head feel like a monumental effort. For days, you do little more than lie on your straw pallet, drifting in and out of a true healing sleep. Your recovery is a slow and fragile process, entirely dependent on your body's own ravaged resources and the simple care of your family. There are no vitamin supplements to hasten your return to strength, no physical therapy to rebuild your wasted muscles. Your spouse feeds you thin, warm broths and soft, mashed pottage, the only food your bruised and battered jaw can handle. It is a slow, painstaking process of rebuilding yourself from the inside out, one spoonful at a time. As your strength gradually returns over the weeks, you begin to take stock of the permanent changes, the price of your survival. You have lost a great deal of weight. The muscles in your arms and legs have shrunk, and it will be a long time before you can return to the heavy labor of the fields. And then there is the great, hollow space in your jaw. You explore it constantly with your tongue. It is a smooth, strange cavern, a permanent alteration to the landscape of your own body. The jawbone itself, perhaps fractured by the force of the extraction, has not healed perfectly straight, leaving your face with a slight, almost imperceptible asymmetry. You will chew your food on the other side of your mouth for the rest of your life. You have been marked by the ordeal. When you are finally strong enough to walk through the village again, you notice people looking at you with a new kind of respect. They see the subtle indentation in your cheek. They see the way you now hold your head slightly differently. But the scar is not a mark of shame to be hidden. In a world where nearly every adult carries the physical history of their survival, the pitted skin of the smallpox, the crooked finger from a badly healed break, the white line of an old wound, your scar is a testament. It is a story worn on your face. It is a visible sign to the entire community that you faced a great and terrible pain, that you stared into the abyss of a deadly sickness, and that you, through strength or sheer stubbornness, returned. But you know you are not the same person who felt that first innocuous twinge what feels like a lifetime ago. You have survived, but survival is not a simple return to your old life. Historians who study disability and survival in the past note that emerging from such an ordeal was not a reset button. You are permanently changed. You may be physically weaker now, perhaps unable to perform the heaviest tasks you once did, and you carry the immense psychological weight of the experience. You have an intimate, first-hand knowledge of your own mortality. You have learned just how thin the veil is between life and death, and how easily a mundane problem can tear it open. This new knowledge changes your perception of everything. The world feels both more dangerous and infinitely more precious. The simple act of eating a meal without pain is a quiet miracle. A night of uninterrupted, dreamless sleep is a gift from heaven. The warmth of the sun on your face, the sound of your children's laughter, the taste of clean water, these are no longer just facts of your existence. They are profound luxuries, blessings you are now acutely aware of. You think back to the very beginning of the journey, to that first subtle, almost forgettable spark of pain in your tooth. It is astounding to you that such a tiny, insignificant beginning could have led to such a catastrophic ordeal, a journey that took you from a simple herbal poultice to the wise woman's magical rituals, from the apothecary's expensive dust to the physician's dangerous theories, and finally, into the brutal, bloody chair of the barber surgeon and the feverish shadow of death itself. Months later, you are sitting outside your hut in the cool of the evening. Your strength has mostly returned. The hollow in your jaw is now just a familiar, unremarkable part of you. The pain is gone, leaving only the faintest phantom ache on a cold, damp day. You are a survivor. You have earned your peace. The memory of the pain is now just that, a memory. And as the sun sets on your small world, you feel a profound readiness for the simple, uncomplicated peace of sleep. And so the story ends. The long battle with the tooth is over, the fever has faded, and the quiet peace of survival has settled over the small medieval hut. But that world of pain and peril is not yours. Let it recede now, like a tide going out, leaving only the calm, quiet shore of your own consciousness. The memory of the surgeon's tools, the taste of blood, the heat of the fever, let them all dissolve into the gentle darkness of your room. You are here, now, in a place of unparalleled comfort and absolute safety. Feel the softness of your own bed, the gentle pressure of your own pillow. Listen not for the sounds of a troubled night, but for the peaceful, steady rhythm of your own breathing. There are no dangers here. There are no threats to be survived. There is only the deep, restorative promise of a long and tranquil sleep. Let go of the story. Let go of the day. And allow yourself to drift into that wonderful, weightless, and peaceful state of rest. End of script. Sweet dreams.